Good to have you with us for another special edition of Litter Media Live. I'm Dan Ramey, and with me in studio today is the race director of the Buck 50, Mr. Dave Huggins. Good to have you here.
Thank you, Dan. Thank you, Dan. It's always a pleasure to talk with you.
We are going to talk about this year's race, which is coming up very soon. And there's part of the course right there. We'll talk more about it in just a moment. But first, these words from our sponsor for this program, the Bean Foundation.
The Bean Foundation wants to raise awareness about suicide prevention by sharing 988. Trained crisis counselors are available to talk 24/7, 365 days a year. 988. Save the number. Save a life. To learn more about the Bean Foundation, click on this ad on littermedia.com.
It's a long period between April 11th through April 12th of 2025. That's race day, so to speak, over 2 days on the calendar.
Yep, we maximize all the hours in both of those days, and once the race starts at 1 p.m. on Friday, April 11th, that's when our first teams leave. We have, I think, our largest group ever. I think there's 20 or 21 teams in the first wave taking off at 1 o'clock from Ohio University, Chillicothe, and once those teams take off, they will run all throughout the rest of the day, through the evening, through the night, until they get back up to Ohio University, Chillicothe on Saturday afternoon.
How many teams do you have for this year?
We have 121, new record for us, so pretty exciting. It's year number 9, so it's good to see the race growing and people getting more. We have several teams where they started out with one team and now there's 2 of them. So that's kind of a cool thing to do, because we have some teams where, like, maybe you and I are the team captains for both those teams, but then you will start at the same time, and then we'll kind of run together throughout the whole race. So it's almost like a built-in running partner for your journey through Ross County.
Now, as we have mentioned before on this program, this is a fundraiser for the M.A.D.E program, which is Drug-Free Clubs of America here locally, which continues to expand, and maybe we can touch on that a little bit later on. But having 121 teams, a new record, that means more money coming in to help run that program.
That's exactly right. We certainly do well with sponsors who contribute to the race, but I think from the runner standpoint, it's meaningful for them to know that the dollars that they're investing into this race as a team are also helping those students as well. So it's a pretty huge undertaking when you're trying to support 15 different schools, and we have over 2,100 students involved. We spend $67 per kid per year, so you can do the math of 2,100 times 67. It's a pretty big chunk of change that we have going out from our coffers, but certainly thankful for the sponsors and runners who help us make that happen each year.
Now, probably within the last 3 weeks, we started seeing, bring that image up here, you started seeing this on roadways around. Hey, Aaron, are you there? Okay. Just wanted to make sure he was awake over there. But this is the image that you'll see on the roadway. And you were telling me there's only about 700 of these?
700 of those. Greg Manson, who is our race course supervisor, would probably use a different word than only. He's probably put out 400 or 500 of those himself. My son and I went out one day when he was on spring break, and I think we painted legs 22 through 12. Greg has done the rest. And we have a system. We used to just kind of throw those things out there. Well, we finally created a system where there's 2 painted arrows to show the runner where to turn, and then there'll be a confirmation straight arrow after the turn of where they're supposed to go, whether that's right or left. Then there'll also be a painted arrow every half mile after that. And then when we go out to start marking the course next week with signage, we'll have a turn arrow sign, and a confirmation sign after that. Then we'll drive a quarter mile, place a sign in the ground, and then we'll start going every half mile after that. So basically for the runners, they will see an indicator every quarter mile while they're on the course. And it only took us, Dan, 8 years to figure out that when you paint at an intersection, the painted part's going to be a half mile out and the sign's going to be a quarter mile out. Mm-hmm. We used to just kind of randomly take off, and one guy would do it one way, one guy would do the painted arrow the other way, and then we'd put the signs in between. But we're slow learners, and it only took us 8 years to figure out a system that would work for everyone.
Well, I have to ask, after having 8 races so far, do some of those markings that are painted on the course, do they eventually fade away, or are you able to say, okay, we're going to leave this one here and not have to worry about painting it again?
So here's what I've kind of discovered. It's not an exact science. We basically used like field marking paint to put the paint on the course. So it is designed to not last a lengthy period of time. But what I have found is if you are on the western part of the course, like legs 6, 7, and 8 in that Frankfurt-Clarksburg area where it's pretty flat and pretty windy, those arrows seem to disappear pretty much year to year where you don't see anything. If you are on the eastern part of the course where it's a little bit more hilly and protected, and in some cases some roads less traveled, every once in a while we'll find an arrow from the year before and it's still good to go, so we just bypass that one and head to the next location.
Yeah, I figured after 700 of these on the course, somebody's got to survive.
Some of them do survive. Some do survive.
You are starting back at Ohio University Chillicothe as opposed to downtown this year.
Yeah, that's been a fun, the race is involved in so many ways. We started up there at Ohio University Chillicothe, and I used to tell Dean Marty Tuck that I know they built the Shoemaker Center for sporting events, but when we arrived there, I explained that I felt like that was built for the $150. They kind of have that bowl there on the west side of the walk bridge, so that becomes kind of our start-finish line area. The walk bridge is where we hang our banners for the start-finish line, so that all really looks impressive come race weekend. And, we kind of had COVID. The downtown was growing, so we kind of went downtown for a couple years, but then the race grew, and we had more stuff and more people than we could sandwich into 2nd Street. So I reached out to Roberta Milliken last April before the race, and I asked, would she entertain the idea of us coming back, and she was thrilled with that. We've had a great relationship, and the more I get closer to race day, the more excited I am to be at OUC and have all that space. It's a wonderful facility. They've been wonderful hosts, and without question, once again, this will be our best $150 ever.
Yeah, you've added in recent years like I think it wasn't the inmates out of CCI or RCI had built these 150 for you.
Yeah, the guys at CCI, the Helping Hands team that that are major sponsors for the race also, they raise money for us, but they built these, they're 6 feet tall and they're 4 feet wide, a 150 number, and then they also have, they built us a little runner guy. So we display those at the start-finish line. You'll also find those out at Adena High School, where Van 2 drivers and runners check in. So we have those out there for some photo ops and just kind of some neat things to highlight and market the race.
How different is the course this year?
Well, there's been those folks who ran with us back in 17, 18, and 19 are real excited because leg 1 and leg 2 will be just as they were on the original design. So leg 1 runs out by Poke Hollow and has a pretty challenging hill to begin with. Leg 2 is our longest leg of the whole race. It's 9.2 miles. It runs up into Brewer Heights, runs up into Yapel, so there's some pretty significant elevation gain in those first 3 miles. And then they end up out there at the Hopewell Mound on Sulphur Lick. So that's kind of going backwards in what we've had traditionally. But then the downtown finish, once they come in for legs 27, 28, 29, and 30, those are a brand new design, and we've really learned to separate those runners so that when they're running through town, they don't get lost crisscrossing one leg or the next. But our friends, for instance, at the library, they've always managed checkpoint 26, and they've always offered to have the library as a checkpoint. Well, with this new design, we're able to make them checkpoint 29, and they're going to do a great job of hosting runners at the annex and have restroom facilities inside. They've got a big TV. They're going to monitor the GPS trackers, so you'll be able to see the kind of whole race and the runners coming into each checkpoint. So it's really exciting to make this change. I like to say that we'll never change the course again, because it is a lot to get the driver directions and the runner directions and the mapping, and it's a pretty big undertaking when we make any changes to the route.
Are you excited to see some particular teams come back, ones that might really stand out from recent years?
This year, the fastest team we have in the field is Team Cornfield, a bunch of guys out of Circleville. They ran 15 hours and 30 minutes last year. They're predicted to run about that same speed this year. So at this point, based on pace projections, they look to be about the fastest team. We have Mr. Harvey Lewis running with us again on the Flying Pigs team. He'll be a 5-person team and once again be really fast. The cool thing we have this year that we've been able to grow into as the teams have grown is we now have 10 different race categories that teams can compete in. So we've always had a 100% female team. Let me rephrase that. We haven't always had. We used to just recognize the winners, the first place team. But then as the race grew, we started categories. So we had a 100% female team, 8 males or more made a male team. Everything else was a mixed team in the 10-person category. And then we had 5-person teams. Well, now that we have more teams and more runners, we've developed the young bucks and the old bucks in those same categories. So a team that has an average age of 40 or more, they'll be the old bucks category. And then the young bucks will be teams of 39 or less. So it certainly kind of levels the playing field in those categories. And I think will make it a lot more exciting for the runners. It is a race, so they are competing, and it'll be fun, yet challenging for us to sort that out come Saturday at the finish line.
And many of us know about those life changes at 40 and how that creates that separation, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. Like as much as we all want to admit, getting older does create a different circumstance within our bodies. So it certainly will be fun. And, I've had a team, for instance, the Chill Runners. They've ran with us every single year since we started. And they've typically used language with me, well, we're the fastest, oldest team. Well, this year we're going to find out if you really are. And they've placed, not only placed, but they've won the mixed category before. This just makes it a little bit more exciting and competitive for them. And, we have several teams that have been with us since the start. It's pretty amazing. We have this is a little bit of a secret, but we've talked about it briefly. Our 10th year is coming up next year. Mm-hmm. Best I can tell is we have about 30 runners who have ran in all 9 races. Next year will be race number 10 for them. So we're creating a $150 belt buckle that we will award to any runner who has 10 years of running experience with the $150. So kind of a nice legacy award for them and something to honor their commitment to the $150.
Absolutely. This reason for running the $150 is, again, the kids. Mm-hmm. And we talked about how $67 per kid across the board to help the Drug-Free Clubs of America and the M.A.D.E organization. Share with us, again, how this has grown and how they've benefited from the $150.
So originally when Chris Scott had this idea to bring the Drug-Free Clubs of America program to Ross County, which was a phenomenal idea, we needed a way to pay for it. and we needed a way to pay for it on a long-term basis that would be sustainable. So we came up with this idea that if we created this race through runner entry fees and sponsorships on an annual basis, we could create a sustainable fundraising machine to support these kids. So, in that first year, we thought we needed to raise about $50,000 or $60,000, and the kids outpaced us. And that first year's bill was $113,000.
Oh my!
Through a lot of help of local groups. I remember the Noon Rotary Club really chipped in, and they put together an auction that kind of helped us get over the hump with the final $15,000. And the race had kind of created. I think we raised about. We had a net contribution of like $70,000 in our first year, which is really a pretty substantial number when you start from nothing. So we really saw a lot of success, and we had the rally each year in the fall for the kids, and we really just saw how impactful this program was and how many kids' lives we were saving through it. So back in 2022, I met with M.A.D.E Health System, our presenting sponsor. We have an agreement with them at the time that was about to expire, and I just asked, will we be able to continue this relationship? The answer was yes. Of course, you guys are doing great things. We love being a part of it. And then I kind of presented the idea of, well, what do you think about expanding into Pike, Jackson, and Vinton counties? And so we talked about that, and they were able to contribute a few more dollars to help us out in that regard, and we were able to take on a little bit more risk of supporting those kids, because that's how we do things at the Buck 50. We're all in all the time. And so it's been great to get into those 3 more counties. We now have 15 schools, and this is some math that I've just kind of recently done, but after 9 years, after we complete this race and we write the checks to drug-free clubs this year, we will have contributed $1 million to teen drug prevention in Southern Ohio over these last 9 years through the Buck 50.
Fantastic.
Yeah, it's pretty exciting. We're a lot about you keep your head down and you just do the work, and the results will come. But every once in a while, you got to go back and look at your numbers and see where you're at. And it's super exciting to see what this 150-mile relay race and the volunteers and the runners and, folks like, M.A.D.E Health System, Wagner's and Cozy's put on a golf outing each year for us. Nicole and Brandy do a bang-up job of that. I think last year they raised like $17,000 through that outing that all goes to the Buck 50. Our friends at the Helping Hands group at CCI, they put on a 10K race inside the fence at CCI in September. That race raised over $10,000 last year for us. We've got our friends at the VFW Post 108. They contribute about $10,000 each year. So it's a huge undertaking to make this all go together, but there's so many people in this community that do their part to make sure that we can pay our bills and we can do what we're trying to do. It's remarkable, and quite frankly, I many times feel like it's just a miracle that we have so many giving hearts helping us.
I like how the Buck 50 is placed in springtime. Of course, during COVID, you had to go to July.
Yeah, that July year was a rough one.
we wanted to go there again. But the school year starts, and then a couple months later, you have the rally, and then you come back in the spring, and the kids are involved with the race as well. And I like how you give them the opportunity to award medallions to the runners who come through. It really encompasses everything for a high school kid that they can remember their junior and senior years.
That part where, we kind of early on figured out to have the kids pass out the race medals. This is kind of those things where, like, as a young person, I don't know that they sometimes realize how impactful they can be and how important that they are. But through the years, I've really gotten to know a lot of these runners really closely, and they're good friends of mine. And so the one thing that I've learned when we talk about this whole drug epidemic that we're all in and how many people it affects, we have a lot of runners who have fought, and they've got on the other side of their addiction demons. And so they run in this race as a way to support these kids and believe in these kids. So when they cross that finish line and the kids that they're running for and they're supporting put that medal over their head, it's super meaningful to them, super meaningful to them. You know, we have people that run in the race who have lost loved ones, and they're running basically on behalf of that loved one that is no longer with us. So once again, that's very meaningful. Christy Lamon does a great job out on leg number 8, which we call the Memory Mile, where you're able to sponsor someone who has lost their battle with addiction or gotten on the other side of it. And she'll put up these tiki torches with names. And, you know, that last mile of leg 8 is a tough one. You know, it really kind of sets the stage for why we're doing this race and why we all believe in this cause and why we're all, you know, coming together each April to do it. So if that's something you still want to participate in, Christy might kill me when I say this, but shoot me an email at dave@thebuck50.com and I'll help you figure out where to funnel those dollars to help Christy, because she's done a scholarship in honor of her son, Joe. And so money that she raises through that goes out to the kids locally in the M.A.D.E program, and she's given away thousands and thousands of dollars in scholarship money based on the things she does throughout the year to raise money and awareness.
Is it too late for someone to be involved as a sponsor?
I'm a never say never to guy, Dan. So I will jump through some hoops, and my friends at Printex will I think help fit that bill as well. So we certainly are blessed, but we certainly would like to bless more. So if you would like to be a part of the Buck 50 in a sponsorship format, send me an email at dave@thebuck50.com and we'll work through those details rapidly.
Very good. Anything we've missed you wanted to make sure people knew?
You know, I would just invite the public to come out and see what this looks like. We have, you know, OUC is a great venue where we have all kinds of parking. It's easy for you to get to. Just come up on the hill there. First teams leave at 1 o'clock on Friday. We pretty much have groups going off about every 30 minutes until 6 p.m. The freak show leaves at 8 p.m. that night. There's 5 teams in that. All those teams will run less than 18 hours. So they're the last team's out, the first team's back. Saturday will be really fun. We have, I think we have 3 or 4 food trucks up there. We have, we're doing karaoke this year.
Oh boy.
So that'll be kind of fun Saturday afternoon. We have a cold plunge tank and a sauna that will be up there at the finish line. So it's really kind of a celebration to watch these 121 teams start and finish. You know, we bring runners in from like 25 different states. So it's a really pretty big to-do that people should be proud of that their community's doing. And certainly the runners would love to see a little bit of extra support. If you're on the course, put out a sign, a bottle of water, something like that. You can find that map on our website or on our social media pages. But it's coming together well, and I'm certainly thankful for everyone who helps make the Buck 50 possible.
And your web address is?
thebuck50.com.
Okay, very easy to find that. Thank you to the Bean Foundation for helping to sponsor this particular edition of Litter Media Live, and thank you to Dave Huggins and your entire team that put together the Buck 50. Thank you for watching here on Litter Media Live.